Hi folks, I'm Gabe Turner.
And I'm Aliza Vigderman.
And this is Are We in the Future?
Are We in the Future is a podcast where we watch movies and TV shows with smart home, cybersecurity, or home security elements and answer the important questions about the technology itself.
Does this exist today?
Can this exist today? Should this exist today?
What modern technology would have made this movie last only up through the first act?
And of course, are we in the future?
This week, we'll be watching Hackers, a 1995 movie starring Angelina Jolie, Jonny Lee Miller, Jesse Bradford, Lorraine Braco, among others. Now, one funny fact about this movie is that when it initially came out in the 90s, the website itself was hacked by actual hackers, a group called the Internet Liberation Front. In a nutshell, they doodled on the stars' faces and wrote, "This is going to be a lame, cheesy promotional site for a movie over them." Funnily enough, the studio decided to keep the site in its altered form.
It really shows their commitment to hackers, not just fictional.
Yeah.
Hackers.
They were about it. They were like, we're making this movie. We believe in them.
Who are we to, undo what the hackers have done?
Exactly. So let's go ahead and talk about the plot of this movie. It begins with Dade Murphy, also known as Zero Cool in the hacking circles, who goes on to also be known as Crash Override. As a child hacker, his virus crashes over 1,500 computer systems, including Wall Street trading systems. Now, of course, the authorities weren't super happy about this, so they ended up fining him $45,000 and prohibited him from going on a computer until he's 18 years old. So you fast forward 7 years, and Dade is a, somewhat handsome high school hacker who just moved to the Big Apple with his single mom. Now, as a hacker, he seems to be pretty social justice oriented, trying to take down racist TV shows and replacing them with a personal favorite, The Twilight Zone. But he's not the only hacker in town. Acid Burn is another hacker, and apparently Dade is on their turf.
Yeah, so this movie is extremely 90s. Like, aside from just being made in the 90s, it's like almost seems like a caricature of the 90s in a way, because he rollerblades to school.
Which I did.
I'm telling you, you would have been in this friend group if this was a real high school. I could see you wearing like cargo pants, rollerblading to school. Anyway, first day, he immediately meets a girl named Kate, who's Angelina Jolie. Obviously, he has a crush on her. She tells him that there's a pool on the roof. It doesn't exist. He gets stuck out in the rain, and then as revenge, he hacks into the school's sprinkler system and makes all the sprinklers go off, but he has an umbrella. So their relationship starts with revenge, which is always a good way to start a romantic relationship. And also she has a boyfriend named Curtis, and he drives a motorcycle. So this is going to be a tough thing for Dade to get over. That's pretty much the coolest thing you can do in the 90s in high school.
Yes. Motorcycles are cool. I used to have a motorcycle in New York, actually.
Really?
Yeah. Surprise you, right? You would have never thought.
Full of surprises.
I'm super risk averse, but I rode a motorcycle for a little while in New York City.
I don't think you're that risk averse. Like, the fact that you bike every day to work means that you don't care if you live or die.
Yeah. Well, to tell
Aside
my mom
from
that. Tell my mom
Aside from that.
Yeah. So Dade very quickly meets a lot of other hackers with funny names like Freak.
With a PH.
With the PH.
Like the Philly Fanatic.
Yeah, like fat. Serial and Joey. Now Joey.
Not a funny name.
Yeah, not that funny. He's a wannabe hacker played by Jesse Bradford, which we all know from Bring It On.
Love it.
Yes. Now, to prove himself, Joey hacks into a supercomputer that they refer to as the Gibson and saves a garbage file from it to prove himself to the others. Unfortunately, our villain, some might say supervillain,
he's pretty evil.
Eugene Belford has hidden code into the Gibson. Wait, is villain a thing? Like, is supervillain because they're very good or just because they're very evil? Like, which
Both.
one is? Oh, man.
I would argue that they're not mutually mutually exclusive.
All right, so our super villain, Eugene Belfort, has hidden code into the Gibson that would get him and his girlfriend, played by Lorraine Braco, Academy nominated Lorraine Braco, I believe, actually.
Dr. Melfi from The Sopranos,
Yes.
which I just finished, so this was very exciting for me.
Excellent.
Quite a different role.
They want to make a bunch of money illegally. So to save himself, Belfort frames the high school hackers, the aforementioned Freak and Serial and the like, making it seem like they planted a virus called the Da Vinci into the computer.
Imagine going home and your mom's like, how was your first day of school? And you're like, it was great. I immediately met a group of hackers. One is named Freak. One is named Serial. These are my best friends now.
Right, exactly.
Anyway, so they're basically trying to frame the hackers. So obviously the only way to get out of being framed is to do a hackathon. So they find a worm in the garbage file that points the blame to Belford, but not before they're all arrested, except Serial, who ends up saving the day. He kind of hacks into TVs and is like, no, they were framed. Eugene and his girlfriend, Lorraine Braco, are arrested. Obviously, Kate and Dade end up together. And I found out on IMDb that these actors really did get married a year after the movie came out. And though the marriage only lasted 4 years.
That's honestly pretty good. 4 years only?
In Hollywood?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
4 years is like, that's a mid-range marriage.
Now celebrities get married and then they're like, just kidding, it wasn't an actual marriage.
Yeah, they consciously uncouple. Is that what it is? The conscious decoupling?
Yeah, that's Gwyneth Paltrow said that. Mm-hmm. Anyway, 4 years. That's a lifetime in Hollywood.
That's a good marriage.
And you know what? They remain good friends.
Yeah, you can go from A to B to C back to A in 4 years. List. I feel like.
I don't know. I'm confused by that. I don't know what you mean. Anyway, oh yeah. Did I mention Kate was acid burn? So now they're Crash and Burn, which is like not the cutest couple name I've ever heard, but for them, it works.
It worked. And their relationship was better than that because apparently they're still good friends. Like you're saying.
In real life, in the movie.
So it didn't crash and burn.
A+ relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. I've actually done a couple of hackathons. Never won, for the record. Never win.
I didn't know you coded.
I faked it.
Well, that's no wonder that you didn't win. I think you would have been the Joey of that friend group.
Oh, for sure. Trying to prove myself all the time.
Yeah.
Failing, getting us all arrested. That has happened to me. But let's not digress anymore.
Okay, so the first big question I had over watching this very 90s movie is, what does hacking look like in 2019? Because, in this movie, they're hacking payphones to make them free. And they're really just trying to get information out there. But in my mind, it's like so much information is just available for free that I'm wondering, what hacking looks like in this day and age.
Yes, thank you, Wikipedia. So you're right. We definitely don't need to be hacking into like payphones. Well, yeah, we don't need to be hacking into payphones. They're still very expensive, I want to point out, if you actually use.
How expensive are they? I don't think I've ever used one.
I think they're like to get a minute, you have to pay like $0.25, I think. Like it's hectic. But I'm thinking about it more from like at the beginning of the movie, Freak is trying to call Venezuela, right? And like it costs him so much money to call abroad, like way more than it actually costs to call those countries. So like I still feel like that part is a little relevant, but I digress. With all this technology, there's come a lot of like privacy and net neutrality issues. I mean, security breaches are pretty common occurrences, especially if you're talking about like IoT devices. I mean, just from this past year, there was the NordVPN third-party server breach. There were vulnerabilities found in Nestcam IQ. There was like a Capital One data exposure. Marriott got fined for a data breach. I mean, just over and over again, we just hear constantly about these types of issues coming up. So that is why a lot of these companies actually employ hackers, believe it or not.
Interesting. So if you had a hackers too, they would all just be working in IT.
Yes. They would all be just trying to like figure out what their healthcare plan was.
At least they get it, you know?
Exactly.
In the 90s, hackers didn't have 401ks. They didn't have healthcare.
Yeah. So
that's cool.
That is cool. So like organizations essentially need ethical hackers to combat the let's call them unethical hackers. And generally, these are referred to as white hat and black hat. White hat being good, black hat being bad. I have issues with that.
As do I.
Yeah, let's continue.
I'm an ally.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank me. You're welcome.
So they'll do things like penetration testing, which is like a group of what they call pen tests, where they'll just try to hack into anything, find vulnerabilities before the hackers can exploit them. They'll also use SCA, software composition analysis, to find vulnerabilities and potential licensing conflicts in open source code. And like every year, there's like a Black Hat Security Conference. It's like 22 years old now. So, just now graduating college. And it's aimed at ethical hackers who want to think like black hatters in order to help organizations. Like, here's some descriptions for an event at this year's Black Hat USA conference. We're at a critical juncture right now where the benefits from technological advances are increasingly counterbalanced by harmful applications and perilous consequences. Cyber attacks are crippling hospitals and threatening public health. Governments are using malware and online propaganda to undermine elections and democracies, and widespread surveillance to violate human rights. While consumer privacy has become a casualty of unchecked corporate greed, to address these issues, we need the critical thinking, creativity, and passion that ethical hackers and technologists use to strengthen cybersecurity applied to social causes and protecting the public interest.
Sounds important. And especially in this election, this 2020 election, there's been a lot of talk about election security. A lot of candidates think we need paper ballots, which are actually more secure than any sort of digital thing that ever could exist, which is kind of ironic.
Yeah.
That it was more secure in like the 60s than it is now. So what if I'm like an ethical hacker, but it's not my main thing?
Well, like you could be like a freelance dude. You could be like, it's you can participate in what they call bug bounties. So like huge companies like Google, Apple, Microsoft offer these bug bounties to pay people to find vulnerabilities. So it's like crowdsourced pen testing. So typically the hackers will notify the company privately and give them time to fix the bug before they go public with it.
Nice. Yeah. And I was reading an article from CNBC, and apparently, for those who are still trying to decide what you want to do, there's a huge shortage of like IT workers and cybersecurity workers. So by 2021, there's actually going to be 3.5 million unfilled roles. And I can tell you that if you're more of the freelance type, there's a startup called Cynic that helps companies crowdsource their cybersecurity. And they actually just had their first hacker make over $1 million in bug bounties this year. So these jobs are very highly paying.
Wow.
So if you want to make money and you're into this kind of stuff, this seems like a good major.
The gig economy really knows no bounds.
Anything can be disrupted, shall we say.
You think someone's on Fiverr like, I will hack your company for you?
Honestly, like, yes.
I'll have to look
at this point. Oh, so, okay, let's say like I'm an ethical hacker, but I also hate capitalism. And like, I don't want to help companies strengthen their systems because I'm just not a fan of like for-profit businesses. Is there anything that ethical hackers can do that does not benefit for-profit companies?
Yeah, like if you don't want to help out a company, you can also work for a nonprofit. Examples of ethical hacking are like the Innocent Lives Foundation, which is a nonprofit that uses white hat hackers to track and unmask those who create and trade in child abuse materials.
That is really cool and a very good way to use coding. So yeah, this movie in general was very social justice oriented. I mean, in the first scene.
And environmental justice as well, probably you would say.
Which parts?
The fact that they're really trying to prevent an ecological disaster.
Oh, true. Because the computer would have like
dumped
caused oil spill.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think of that, but that's true. Yeah. I mean, in the first scene, Dade is shutting down a TV show called America First. And then in the movie, the hackers say we exist without skin color, without nationality, without religious bias.
Right. Like that's an actual quote from the Hacker Manifesto, an essay written in 1986, which before I was born, for the record, by a hacker named The Mentor, actual named Lloyd Blankenship. Now, he belonged to a hacker group called the Legion of Doom. And it was, written after Lloyd was arrested, and it was first published in the e-zine Frack, now a cornerstone of hacker culture.
It's also with a PH. Just saying. Hackers love spelling things with PHs.
Yes.
So what did this manifesto say?
Well, it was like an ethical foundation for hacking. It said hacking should be around or should exist to expand our horizons and keep the world free. An excerpt would be something like, "We seek after knowledge and you call us criminals. We exist without skin color, without nationality, without religious bias, and you call us criminals. Yes, I am a criminal. My crime is that of curiosity. My crime is that of judging people by what they say and think and not what they look like. My crime is that of outsmarting you, something that you will never forgive me for." And like a little note is that it was a poster in Mark Zuckerberg's dorm room, or let's say Jesse Eisenberg's dorm room, in the 2010
Mark
movie.
Zuckerberg is played by Jesse Eisenberg.
In the 2010 movie, The Social Network.
Yeah, so that sounds kind of, in a way they have good intentions, but they're not necessarily doing things legally, which I guess is the definition of gray hat hackers, kind of in the middle.
Yes, like the black hat hackers, gray hats aren't actually authorized to hack into systems and may be breaking the law, but they may have, good intentions. For example, Dade hacks into the xenophobic show America First as an example of hacktivism.
Okay, so let's dig into that word, because I remember the word clicktivism is where, in the 2016 election, everyone was like doing all these petitions and making these really long Facebook statuses and like basically doing, quote, activism, but on social media. So is there relation? They're both isms.
Right. Yes. So one, hacktivism isn't as annoying. Hacktivism is the use of tech to promote a political agenda or social change, often related to free speech, freedom of information, or human rights.
Okay. So any examples? Paint me a word picture.
So it comes in various forms. Like you might deface a website, you might do a DOS attack. There's also a denial of service attack. There's also like culture jamming, which like subverts or criticizes political messaging and media culture to target the status quo. That might be like hacking a billboard, or broadcasting or a broadcast signal intrusion, or ad hoc art performances, memes, artivism. I actually really like when they hack traffic signals in a city to be like, hey, this is bad, or like this road should, I actually am a big fan. That's been happening a lot recently. It's like the traffic signals they've been hacking.
Isn't that dangerous?
Sorry, when I say traffic signals, I mean like the ones that have like don't drink and drive. Which is great. Like that's a great thing to put up. But like there's other things that people put like those.
Oh, so it's not like the red light.
Not the red light. Yeah, I know that was unclear.
I was like, that sounds extremely dangerous.
That's the
and also trafficky.
So interestingly enough, that's one of the very first hacking movies starring, I think, Gene Hackman.
Oh my God. He's the perfect person.
In the original Italian Job, they actually hack traffic signals. Also something they do in the remake of The Italian Job starring Mark Wahlberg, but that's neither here nor there. Media hacking is the using electronic media in a new or unique fashion in order to convey a message to a large number of people online. So it could be a blog or a social media, even text messaging. And then you've got reality hacking, which is using illegal or legally ambiguous digital tools for political, social, or subversive ends, like defacing websites, redirecting URLs.
Websites.
I mean, like the best thing is like a lot of people redirect political URLs, and they're always quite funny. It's like you type in some political person, and then it'll go to the wrong place, which is typically against that person or something. And then you can have information thefts and things of that nature.
Yeah. Wow. That's a lot. I mean, I like that you don't have to get out of your seat to be a hacktivist.
Yes.
People used to have to go out, protest.
Yeah.
Go out into the streets.
That's so passé.
Why do it
when
you can just be a hacktivist?
Exactly.
So are there any like well-known hacktivists? Who are the celebs?
I think look, I'm going to approach this very, very neutrally. But I think some of the ones that people know the most are anonymous. They hacked the Church of Scientology and something they called Project Chinology because of some things they had relating like a 2008 interview with Tom Cruise. And then they later shifted to like, other legal methods of protesting. They also hacked ISIS at one point. That one seems to be a little bit more of a botched job in terms of like who they ended up releasing that information and the extent to which like that was like the anonymous that we were familiar with and some other people saying they're anonymous, like that's like,
That's the problem with being anonymous.
Right. It's like you don't like, you
can
false flag it really easily. So that's like an interesting element of hacking is like people can claim it. I bet people probably steal other people's bounties. I bet someone goes and steals someone's bounty.
It's like how there'll be like false murder confessions for Jean-Benet Ramsey.
All the time.
And it's like, why would you admit to that if you didn't even do it?
If you weren't even,
You want to go to jail?
Yeah. And then you've got WikiLeaks, founded by Julian Assange. Pretty hectic. And they leaked various Afghanistan war logs and gave access to various papers. Chelsea Manning was a big part of that. She has been imprisoned. They revealed a lot of, like 144 incidents of unreported civilian casualties, maybe the greatest military leak in United States history. And then they also had a lot to do, of course, with the DNC emails and that whole debacle.
Her emails.
Yep. Wild. So wild all around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like this movie has never been more relevant.
Super relevant. It's super relevant.
So do you think we are in the future?
I think for this one, we kind of are in the future.
I agree.
Like we've made it. They gave us a lot of promises growing up. They said we're going to have flying cars.
I know. Oh,
they said
printers that work. I'm still waiting. But seriously,
the hacking stuff is real.
Yeah, it is.
It affects everyone all the time. And it's only going to, like, as the Black Hat Conference said, like, this is just becoming bigger, more important, and more diabolical in terms of, like, its negative effects.
Yeah, they say there's going to be cyber wars in which no blood is shed, which is, better than a regular war, arguably, depending on, like, what happens. But, I mean, the worst case scenario would be some country hacking into, like, our power grid.
Right. I mean, I have a lot of thoughts about this. I'm sure we're going to have to address it further in like other podcasts. Because I'm a bit of a war games like nut. Not nut. Like that's the word. That's the wrong word. Like I actually read some like blogs like this, which is weird because I have no like military background whatsoever. But yeah, I mean, grids and what does that mean? And
medical devices, like it's scary.
Yeah. Hospitals.
Oof.
Doesn't take much.
It almost makes you wish we had never invented computers.
Almost.
But then, how am I supposed to survive without Google Maps?
Yeah. Where am I going to, I don't know where to go.
I would have had to like develop the skills to read an actual map.
Can I just say that I'm really frustrated in New York that no one seems to understand the fact that we have cardinal directions. Like I say north or south.
Wait, I feel like everyone gets that.
No.
In Manhattan,
maybe you hang out with more informed people.
Wait, so like in Manhattan, you'll be like, it's north of there, and they'll be like, I have no idea which way's north.
Yeah, they'll be like, it's
above
typically
14th
native New Yorkers.
Street?
Typically native New Yorkers won't.
That doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make any sense. I'm very confused by it at all times. But anyway, that's it. That's what we got.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. But I do want to say thanks to everyone for listening to today's talk on hackers.
So this has been another episode of Are We in the Future? Thank you for listening.
Thanks.